Hi, this is Jessica Adams. If you like astrology and murder mysteries, how about our new audiobook, The Aries Billionaire?
Hi, I'm Rachel Wells. The Aries Billionaire is the first audiobook in my new series with Jessica, Leo Moon, Astrologer Detective.
You can order it at audible.co.uk now.
Leo Moon is the Hercule Poirot of horoscopes,
Though he's a bit younger and better looking.
and we really hope you like it.
Rachel is a Sunday Times bestseller, so I predict you will.
This is the Astrology Show podcast with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. Here is your astrology and tarot for the week starting Monday, the 19th of February, ending on the 23rd of February. Aries. Well, you have Pisces weather in your 12th house, and it will lead to a decision in March about all 12th house things. So your therapist, religion, hypnosis, self-help, tarot, psychic, medium, and so on, the private things. This is also where we find meditation and dream interpretation. It may be about Buddhism, or it may be about the religion that you were born into when you were christened. So the Ace of Cups is your tarot card this week and shows that network of people who are all spiritually connected in the floating lotus flowers in the card. So what you're going into in March this week as a preparation for it is a choice about how you are going to organize your inner life. And it may result in March in you going closer towards something, which may be a belief system, or it may be a therapist, or further away, so floating right away from it. This is one of the most notorious cycles in astrology that you're going through because nobody else can see what's going on. It has to be experienced in solitude, and it's been going on since last year. So you have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and they are transiting your 12th. If you have Pisces factors in your birth chart, then it's doubly personal because you are exploring where the boundaries are with the things that nobody else can see. But of course, it's incredibly real and important to you. So this week is about the first steps towards that, and you can count on a decision in March. Taurus, for you, this stellium in Pisces is all about friends and groups. So a political party, a religious network, or an ensemble cast, the Freemasons or a band. In the tarot, this is associated with the Three of Cups, so one for all and all for one. But the issue here is no boundaries, and yet, weirdly, lots of boundaries as well. So you appear to have woken up in a situation that began in 2023, where everybody is all over the place all the time, but you also have a Saturn cycle going on, which means it's difficult to get into something or difficult to get out of it. What you can do in March is come up with a new angle on a situation if you cannot change it, or in March, you're moving towards a decision which actually will change it. It may be about a particular friend, in which case this person has fuzzy lines or blurred lines with you or others. It may also be about the internet, which has zero boundaries. So either way, as you go towards March, this week is the turning point. You are either going to have to take a new perspective on something if you can't get out of it, or you're actually going to do something drastic. Gemini, the potential is always there for a change at the top in 2024, and for you or somebody else to move on up. So, for example, somebody may resign this year or be sacked. This may be in your chosen field, more broadly speaking, so one company's CEO is replaced by another. It may also be in academia or with your unpaid work. This week, all this Pisces weather is reminding you that the group is actually the really important thing. So all eyes on the person at the top, which may be you, but actually what's going to happen this year is really all about the way that the collective network or community around this person or around the person departing copes with the change. This is going to come to pass this year. It may be quite late in the year for some of you, but even now you can look at the dynamics with those around you and figure out how important those connections are and how you're going to play it when Something happens quite suddenly, probably, given the stars, and you all have to figure out where your loyalties lie. Are you going to stay there or are you going to go? These things are best handled ahead of time, so you may want to look at that this week. Cancer. Well, the world is your tarot card this week, and this Pisces weather is ushering in foreign people, other cultures, different accents and backgrounds. It is ushering in distant points on the map, no matter what you call distant. In your own country, of course, you can find people who challenge you to understand another language or culture. Saturn and Neptune have been here in Pisces in your 9th house all through 2023. So you may be grappling with the Commonwealth or dealing with the reality of Israel and Palestine, or just having a moment with your Spanish class. This chart zone is also linked to academia and publishing, and that can cross over, obviously, if you're in, for example, a gap year abroad. What you're seeing at the moment is a situation which can't go on. It's been far too disorganized. There is a lot of confusion there, thanks to Neptune, and yet at the same time, you've got somebody, maybe a person or an organization, saying this has to be sorted out. So what March is going to present you with is the choice to create some new kind of setup in your life, which will actually take all that. There is no perfect, there never is with a Saturn-Neptune transit, but there is better. Leo, this week, and in fact the month of March, is about joint finance and property, business and charity. We have transits in Pisces in your 8th house, including the Sun, which is your ruler. And the 8th house rules marriage and mortgage, but also big ticket items that you leave in your will to other people. It also rules anything in a legacy to you. Big wheels are turning, and you have a decision to make in the next 2 or 3 weeks. The issues for you to deal with are a situation which is either very hard to get out of or hard to get into, which is typical of Saturn, and yet also the reality of no boundaries. So this is going to take a bit of fancy footwork and a bit of clever planning and strategy for you, Leo. This week will push you into that, and by the time you wake up in March, you'll be on the road to a new setup. Virgo, well, there are no surprises here. This week is about your 7th house, so your partner, your other half, or the other side, the duet or the duel. The Lovers is your card in the tarot, and it can show two people who are attracted but don't act on it. It can also show a husband and wife thinking about a split. So it's on that level. You also get the Lovers when you have situations where there is a lot of mind reading and guesswork going on and none of it's accurate. For an awful lot of Virgo people this week, this does apply to their private life. The 7th house is also about any feud, dispute, or conflict because it shows the scales of justice. So the issue for you in 2023 and 2024 may have been legal. In other cases, the justice question is about divine justice or what you consider to be fair or unfair with the other side. As you go into March, you are prepared to accept that there is no 100% solution, even though your Virgo self would rather like there to be. What you're going to probably end up with is a trade-off, a deal, or a compromise of some sort. But whether this is intensely personal and romantic, or whether it is about a long-standing marriage, or even the aftermath of a divorce or separation, what you will find this week is that with the Sun in your opposite sign of Pisces, light dawns. Libra, well, the Pisces weather now is in your 6th house of health, well-being, workload and lifestyle. So there is a decision coming up for you with a doctor, surgeon or alternative therapist, for example. Even at the lightest level, this path from here to March will bring a choice about food or drink or exercise. Your work ethic, your sense of duty to others, your service to others, from housework to feeding the dog, is also right on the line. Saturn and Neptune have been in this chart zone for a long time. The Ace of Staves is your tarot card this week, and that shows the breakthrough idea, the understanding or the solution, which, while you accept is not going to fix everything, will help you get on track next month, because this situation that you're dealing with health or work has been going on for a very long time. and has left you in a bit of a quandary. Scorpio. The fifth house transits of various factors in Pisces is really about your admirers or your partner. It is also very much about babies, children, and young adults. This is a slipping and sliding situation as well, you know, because you have had Neptune in this chart zone for years. So for years also, there have never really been any boundaries, either with or for someone or around them. This may be your son, for example, or it may be the whole question of stepchildren. Sometimes it's just your lover. And the faces can change too, so that you end up with the same situation with a different range of people. Well, this sensation of never really knowing what's going on is never going to be completely fixed while Neptune is there, but you can make headway this week as you realise that March is just around the corner and one situation does require a sign-off decision. One of the questions here is, how do you put boundaries back in? Or if you've never done that, how do you put them in for the first time? Sagittarius. The fourth house is ruled by Pisces in your chart, and it's where the Aquarium is, also called your household or family. Everybody in this real-life Aquarium is all over the place, all the time, everywhere. Yet at the same time, this Aquarium has access areas and no access areas, so it's complicated. It's very unusual, and it's a function of a really unusual cycle in your chart. But next month, starting this week, you can resolve about half to 3/4 of your issues about the house, the apartment, your relatives, or those at home. The Four of Staves is your tarot card this week, and it shows a gathering of family or extended family or the household. Whether you gather together online, on the telephone, or whether you get together in March, you do have something important to sign off on. Capricorn. You have this Pisces weather in your third house of siblings, so brothers and sisters, but also cousins. We also count neighbours in the third house, and this is a very, very old astrological definition. Saturn here is very much associated with defensive walls and protective barriers which try to keep out particular people or situations. At the same time, you also have Neptune there, so then the walls dissolve. Capricorn, it's the most peculiar combination, which may explain why 2023 and 2024 have been the way they have. The King of Cups in the tarot is you, a brother, a male cousin, or a male neighbour. It may also be the male side of a sister, for example. What you need to do in March is already pretty obvious to you. Doing it is another matter. But communication is everything, and so is timing. Aquarius. The Pisces weather now is about your tax return, your finances, your property sale or purchase, your business, charity, possessions, valuables, and above all, your bank account. That combination of Saturn and Neptune in Pisces is really unusual and explains why a situation, person, or organisation has been so confused and confusing. Yet you also have a great need to define terms, or you have somebody else saying this has to be sorted out. As you know, there is no perfect 100% solution with Neptune because of its random nature. But within all of that, there is a way through and a way out, and it will help to overcome some of the muddle that has sprung up around you over the last 6 months. In fact, 2023 has attracted all sorts of financial flotsam and jetsam, right down to your possessions, and it's a good time to speculate about a setup that would actually work for you next month. Pisces. Well, it's all about your personal appearance, name, title, reputation, and brand from here until next month. It's also your birthday or thereabouts. So the Sun enters Pisces, your zodiac sign, this week, and it will join Neptune and then Saturn, among others, in your sign. This is not narcissism or ego, it's just common sense. You have to do something about the way that you're being seen and understood by the world. And you know that you are a little bit confused about aspects about yourself, but also others are also muddled too. All of this can be fixed to some degree with a bit of prep. So rather than assuming that your name on Google or your reflection in the mirror or your image on YouTube is something that you just have to put up with or accept, this week you can consciously turn the steering wheel round to your side of the road and drive your branding or your image in a way that makes better sense to you. Your tarot card this week is Aries, the Ace of Cups, Taurus, the Three of Cups, Gemini, the Ace of Swords, Cancer, the World, Leo, the Ace of Coins or Pentacles, Virgo, the Lovers, Libra, the Ace of Staves, Scorpio, the Empress, Sagittarius, the Four of Staves, Capricorn, the King of Cups, Aquarius, the Four of Coins or Pentacles, and Pisces, Temperance. You can find out more about your card and also try a free tarot reading about this week at my website. In your birth chart, as I've said, this is a Pisces weather week with the Sun, Saturn, Neptune, Hygeia, and Aesculapia all in Pisces. If you have Pisces factors in your birth chart, then this week is when you will begin or restart your hypnosis, your self-help, your tarot, your mediumship, your bookings with a psychic, dream interpretation, commitment to a religion, and so on. It's about the inner life. The more Pisces factors that you have in your chart, the more you need to be alone. And in fact, the more you will be alone between now and next month. Happy birthday to famous people born this week. Smokey Robinson is 84 on the 19th of February. Kurt Cobain would have been 57 on the 20th of February, and Ian Brown is 61 on the 20th of February. Babies born this week are psychic and strongly Pisces. They are born with ESP, as we all are, but in their case, it is something that also needs work. And when they are older, in the 2040s and 2050s, they may train or take part-time classes in psychic ability, which will be quite mainstream then. Fated connections this week are the signs drawn towards family. Capricorn, with siblings and cousins, is connected to Sagittarius with all his or her current concerns with relatives. Those lines in the sand that keep disappearing will now be replaced by a new system. I've been talking a bit about the Pisces stellium this week, the sign that the sun goes into, the sign of the two fish, and it joins Saturn and Neptune, also in Pisces, in your chart. These are the two long-term players in this sign, which might explain a few things. If you have even one factor in Pisces, or you are closely involved with a Pisces person, then you have come across the phenomenon of slipping and sliding, which is associated with this sign. So Pisces, because the two fish swim in opposite direction, is associated with people who are confused and also confusing. Prince Andrew is a good example of that. Nobody is really quite sure who he is and where he's at and what actually is the real story over the last few years. Pisces is also a sign that is very much associated with the soul or the spirit. If you know a Pisces or you are a Pisces, then the biggest change in 248 years is happening now over the next 20 years, and it will totally transform the relationship that Pisces people have with, for example, religion or therapy or psychics, the inner life and the inner world. Even if you're not a Pisces, but you have factors in that zodiac sign, you have a little bit of the 12th house always with you. And depending on how many factors you have in the 12th house, you may be a loner as a child or teenager, or later on in life discover that even though you are married or have a family or in a shared household, you very much need your own space. A room of one's own is a Pisces thing. This idea about solitude comes to us from astrology in the Middle Ages because the 12th house, which Pisces rules, and Neptune too, was always about monks, actually, and nuns. So these days, you're unlikely to be in a monastery, but there is a part of you, if you're a little or a lot Pisces, which absolutely requires the door to be closed. You will sometimes read in old 20th century astrology books that the 12th house is associated with psychiatric hospitals and with places of solitary confinement. This is a really old hat way of looking at transits here. And in fact, everybody has been having a 12th house transit in the sign of Pisces while Neptune has been going through that sign. If you think back to 2020, that was an extremely good example. We had rare historic patterns hitting your 12th house then, which resulted in what people call lockdown. Now, lockdown is actually a US jail term for what happens in a prison crisis. It's not staying at home for week after week, but for a lot of people, of course, it did feel like that. This is a good example of the strange phenomenon they call Neptune passing through the 12th house of your chart. For some people who are strongly Pisces, 2020 was the beginning of a change that is still taking place today, and it's very much change on the inside. So, for example, that may have been a period in your life where you did turn to religion, or you turned to meditation, which you'd never tried before, or anything else that got you through. The other strange thing about being at home all the time was, of course, the impact that it had on people's dreams. They call them lockdown dreams, but because we were all on a different circadian rhythm, people were dreaming more or having more memorable and vivid dreams, or dreams that affected them more strongly. And again, this is classic Neptune in Pisces stuff. This cycle does end. It has been with you for a very long time, and it's not going to be as extreme as it was in 2020. But if you have been finding yourself needing to escape from reality more and more, that's classic Neptune in Pisces. I mentioned Kurt Cobain in the podcast, and I was lucky enough to interview him years ago. He was an absolutely classic textbook Sun Pisces, but he also had quite a few factors in that zodiac sign too. And he was the kind of person that was far more interested in alternatives to reality than actual reality itself. And it shows in the music. He also had and still has the ability to transport people out of their reality into his. He was an extremely sensitive person who had very few boundaries. If you've ever watched him playing to the crowd and being moved from one section of the crowd to the other across willing hands, you will have seen classic Pisces in motion. It is the two fish, and it's very much about floating, drifting, or cruising, or surfing the crowd. For this reason, if you have a Pisces in your family or you're married to one, it's useful to remember that without these boundaries, Pisces people are extremely vulnerable because everything is everywhere all the time and it always gets in. Often it can be a spiritual thing or a good thing, but now and again, the Pisces type runs across trouble because they are too open, as I've said, to everything and everybody, and anything can get in. In your chart, if you have anything in Pisces at all, then Neptune will have formed a conjunction with it over the last few years, or you are heading for a Neptune conjunction before this planet finally eases out of Pisces in the mid-2020s. A Neptune conjunction tends to dissolve things. Neptune is a symbol of the sea and the ocean, and whenever you get it acting in your chart by plugging into something in Pisces, everything seems to float and your sense of structure goes. You can lead quite an unstructured existence for 6 to 12 months, and people who are Neptunian can turn up. Years ago, I met a medium in New South Wales in Australia who was strongly Neptune Pisces, and she had the classic lack of boundaries that comes with the territory. So as a medium, she was a bit like a receiving station that was getting just about anything that was within a 50-mile radius of the reading. Pisces people are also associated with science. So Einstein was a Pisces. Skeptics are often Pisces. They don't believe in anything like this at all. But of course, they believe in quantum theory, which is, to anybody who is also skeptical about science, just another mad explanation for reality. In fact, quantum is part of the age. Neptune in Pisces is all about looking at alternative explanations for what we think is real. And their favourite theory, and this is backed by people like the late Professor Stephen Hawking, is that we live in a multiverse and that there are infinite different parallel universes that we end up in just by judging what we think is real. If that all sounds a bit muddled, You're quite right. You're in Pisces territory. The two fish of Pisces swim in opposite directions. One of them swims towards escaping from reality, and the other one swims towards reality. But as they are constantly in motion as a zodiac sign symbol, you end up being quite muddled, or they do, about what's really real anyway. So we have this phenomenon of skeptics in science scoffing at astrology and saying it's just a fairground attraction that should have died in the Middle Ages. And then at the same time, they will wax lyrical about us living in an infinite cascade of competing realities. Well, astrology works in one of them, and that's the explanation. If you are strongly Pisces, you know a Pisces, or you are a Pisces, then what happens over the next few years as you go out of this cycle in your life will leave you feeling with a bit of a hangover. It may take a bit of distance by 2027, 2028 for you to realize what you are actually going through. Experimenting with the tarot is one example, or having deep spiritual inner experiences which defy conventional religion. That's another one. So this week is the beginning of all of that. We are going into Pisces season. The sun enters that zodiac sign for the first time since the last February, March. And as well as that, it will pass through just about everything in your chart in the sign of the fishes. It's a very good idea to ground during this transit. And grounding is sometimes just a matter of going for a walk or doing something pretty boring like repairing a shelf, putting the kettle on and making a cup of tea. The more you are living in your third eye chakra and your crown chakra, the more you need to ground yourself in your base chakra during a Pisces transit, or you can end up living entirely in your head and through your crown, connecting to spirit, but losing the connection to everyday life. This is an old truth about what to do in Pisces weather that comes not just from astrologers, but also from mediums too. So that's a whistle-stop tour around the Pisces weather that we're going into. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you again next week.